Good morning, students. Myself, Major Komal Katyal, Department of Zoology, GK Govani Government College, Bhinmal. Today, we will begin our lecture with two phyla, one Phylum Hemichordata and other Chordata. Let us begin our lecture first with the phylogeny part of the Chordates. In the Precambrian period, if we look at the diagram, you can see there is a hypothetical deuterostome ancestor. Deuterostome, what are deuterostomes? Deuterostomes are those animals in which during embryonic development, the blastopore develops into anus and the development of anus precedes the development of mouth. This hypothetical deuterostome gave rise to a primitive sessile filter feeder animal, and this primitive sessile filter feeder animal gave rise to invertebrate echinoderms and hemichordate. Apart from it, this primitive sessile filter feeder also gave rise to free-swimming chordate ancestor, and this free-swimming chordate ancestor is responsible for giving rise to two major subphyla of chordata. One, the Urochordate, which means tunicates, and cephalochordate, in which amphioxus comes. Now we will discuss about the phylum Hemichordata. Hemi means half. Chordata. The term actually has three different parts. One, hemi; second, chorda; third, eta. Hemi means half, chorda means string or rod-like structure, and eta means bearing. Means those animals in which a string or rod-like structure is present, but it is not true chorda dorsalis or notochord. The hemichordate has three different body regions. One, proboscis; second, collar; and third one, the trunk region. Like echinoderm, they are deuterostome. It means anus precedes the development of mouth. They have gill slits, and unlike the modern chordates, they have an open circulatory system. Open circulatory system means the blood flows inside the blood vessels as well as blood sinuses are present. Apart from it, in the case of hemichordate, two nerve cords are present, one on the dorsal side and other on the ventral side, while in the case of true chordate, only dorsal nerve cord is present. Balanoglossus, which is a tuberculous animal generally present in the intertidal zone. If we look at its anterior body portion, we can easily locate the presence of various body parts, which includes the buccal diverticulum. Now this buccal diverticulum has a skeletal plate, and earlier this skeletal plate was known to be similar with notochord. Nowadays we know that this is not similar to notochord, and hence instead of calling it as a chordate, we call it as a hemichordate. Now we look at the phylogeny part of the chordate. If we look at the phylogeny part of the chordates can be divided into two categories. One, the protochordate, among which we study about urochordate and cephalochordate, and then the euchordate, which are basically the true chordate. In the euchordate, which is also known as vertebrates or the vertebrata. In the vertebrates, the notochord or the chorda dorsalis is partially or fully replaced by a vertebral column which consists of either cartilaginous or bony vertebra. If we look at this phylogeny diagram, you can see there is development of hagfishes, lampreys, which are basically those primitive vertebrates in which jaws are absent and they come under agnathans. The remaining is known as gnathostomes. The gnathostomes includes extinct placoderm, ostracoderm, species, tetrapod. The tetrapod include those vertebrates in which instead of fins, two pairs of limbs are present, one pair of forelimb and one pair of hind limb. Now let us see the fundamental chordate character, presence of notochord, which has a fibrous sheath surrounded by a elastic sheath. If we look at the chordate body plan, it has presence of notochord, presence of pharyngeal pouches or gill slits, and above the notochord, presence of a dorsal hollow nerve cord which is tubular structure, presence of a post-anal tail. Chordates have segmented muscles, and as we know, they are the deuterostome in which blastopore develops into anus. Now look at this diagram which is showing the exact location of notochord. Above the notochord is dorsal nerve cord, and this nerve cord in the later stage of embryogeny forms brain in the anterior region and spinal cord in the posterior region. Apart from it, you can also see easily the presence of pharyngeal gill slits. So these three characters, notochord, nerve cord and pharyngeal gill slits, are considered as fundamental chordate character. Apart from it, there is presence of a muscular post-anal tail, a tail which is present behind the anus. There are certain evolutionary adaptations which make chordates more complex and they are better adapted than their predecessor. Earlier predecessors were filter feeder, and from the filter feeding habit they became active predators. There are certain characters which make them active predators like mobility, oxygen carrying capacity, the process of digestion, advanced circulatory system and advanced nervous system. The skeletal changes which we can observe in chordates include the endoskeleton is much more stronger and can work with bigger muscles, and it also allows rapid movement. You can see in the diagram the location of the notochord, the presence of nerve cord which is clearly showing the brain and spinal cord, and there is presence of vertebral column as we know it is present in the case of vertebrates. The oxygen carrying capacity of the chordate depend upon the bag-like pharynx which has several openings, and these openings are known as gill slits, or we call them pharyngeal gill slits. The muscular pharynx will move water over the gills, and this gill is richly vascularized and capable of extracting oxygen from the water. As far as the circulatory system is concerned, they have a ventral pumping organ, a stronger heart which can pump the blood to complete body with greater speed. As far as the digestive system is concerned, they digest more food because they have a muscularized gut or the alimentary canal. They have accessory digestive gland in the form of liver and pancreas. Apart from it, some chordates have salivary gland to digest the food material. When we look at the nervous system of the chordate, it is more complex and better than the nervous system of the non-chordate. They have a motor control of body to capture the food. They have sensory detection of the animal environment, and they have integration center in the form of better developed brain. The brain has anteriormost olfactory bulb. Apart from olfactory bulb, they have good vision. They have auditory capsule. When we look at the brain, we can easily locate the three main part of the brain. First, the anterior brain, which is known as the forebrain, then the midbrain, and in the last, the hindbrain, which continues with the spinal cord. The chordates are further classified into three subphylum. One, Urochordate. Urochordate are also known as tunicates because they have a outermost body covering in the form of test or tunic, and generally the notochord is present in the larval tail, and hence the name is given Urochordate. The second subphylum includes Cephalochordata. In the Cephalochordata, the notochord is present from one end to other end. It means it even penetrates the anteriormost and the cephalic end, and hence the name is given as Cephalochordata. And the last subphylum is known as the Vertebrata, in which notochord is partially or fully replaced by a vertebral column. So this finishes our briefing on chordates. Thank you.